Anxiety, Roman shouted as he spun up the stairs to drape himself over the couch. Virgil sat on the couch with his headphones on, able to hear the more dramatic side's exclamation, but pretending not to hear it anyway. Though he had told them all his name about a week ago, they still often used his trait to identify him. Maybe it was a habit. Maybe it was just to ease him into getting used to being called his name again. Either way, Virgil didn't really mind. Roman waited for a response, and when he didn't receive one, poked at the shorter's face. Virgil flinched slightly before glaring at Roman and removing his headphones. "What do you want, royal pain in my ass?" That was a new one of Virgil's favorite nicknames, and he smirked as the creative side scoffed. "I wanted to show you something I've been working on recently," Roman started, "but now I'm not so sure." He crossed his arms in a pout, which only amused Virgil more. He rolled his eyes playfully. "So you're allowed to call me every name that comes to your head, but I like one teasing nickname, and you're suddenly against it." It wasn't serious, and he hoped Roman would catch on and forget about his frustration. The taller shrugged and looked away for a second before regaining his usual dramatic persona. "Nah, I just like to make the nicknames." Virgil nodded his head, understanding that creativity would like to make up nicknames. "Anyway," Roman said, to get back on topic, "my kingdom was feeling a little boring, so I remade most of it." He was excited, nearly hopping up and down. Virgil was a little shocked at this news. The kingdom of the imagination had stayed pretty much the same since Thomas had begun middle school. "Wait, really?" was all he could muster to stumble out. Roman nodded enthusiastically. The anticipation to show off was slowly killing him. He grabbed Virgil's hand and pulled him towards the closet under the stairs that he had made into a portal to the imagination so that the others could enter whenever they pleased. His excitement was contagious. The anxious side following close behind couldn't help but feel a stomach bubble with a growing curiosity. Roman swung the door open and put a hand over Virgil's eyes before throwing him through the door. The shorter was by this time used to the other's antic, so this didn't faze him too much. But it still, surprise, surprise, gave a small rise in his ever-present panic. He told himself that nothing was wrong and knew that Roman wouldn't ever let anything happen to him. Plus, the landscapes of the imagination were always breathtaking. Roman smiled to himself as he led Virgil into the remade village that surrounded his castle, hand still over the other's eyes. He was honestly a little surprised that Virgil trusted him enough to not put up a fight for this long with his eyes being covered. "I guess he finally does trust me now." His smile widened at the appealing thought. The sun was just starting to set on the far horizon, and the town was lit by paper lanterns strung between booths of goods. The music gave away where they were, but Virgil kept his eyes shut beneath Roman's hand until the taller wanted him to look. Yes, Roman had redone his entire kingdom, and yes, it needed something new, but there was another reason he had brought Virgil here, a much more important reason, a reason that he'd kept secret for far too long. The two walked deeper into the buzzing village. The creative side uncovered the shorter's eyes, revealing the new but familiar landscape. Orange light draped over the area, giving it a warm and safe tone. Virgil smiled at the atmosphere. The town surely looked different, but it was nice that it still radiated that same fireplace in the fall feeling. Roman returned the smile when he saw Virgil's reaction. It was exactly what he was hoping for. A while later, after a thorough tour of the updated town, the pair made their way to the castle, the real reason they were there. The intricate gold designs lining the walls and doors were more harmonic and complicated than before, and the towers were decorated with large orange and yellow leaves, pumpkin and cinnamon smells in time with the cooling seasons. Roman led Virgil to a darker part of the palace, candles littering the room leading to the open balcony, a calm breeze gently disturbing the white lace curtains. Virgil was slightly confused at the sight, but mostly curious. He let the other lead him into the room and back to the outside. It was dark now. The moon shone bright over the magnificent view of the village below. A beautiful scene. Roman tried to take in the scene, but he couldn't help but glance at the shorter side. He couldn't wait any longer. "Virgil, he asked, to get his attention. The anxious side looked over at the mention of his name. There's another reason I brought you here. Virgil noticed Roman's obvious nervousness, which was uncharacteristic and slightly concerning. Is something wrong? He asked, not quite understanding why the mood had changed so suddenly. He was also slightly nervous that he'd made Roman upset for whatever reason. The taller shook his head in response. I actually have something to ask you? Roman gently took Virgil's hand in both of his and held it to his chest. Virgil, I've loved you for a while now. I know that it is hard for you to trust, and you're just starting to get comfortable with all of us, but I can't stand staying silent any longer. I understand if you do not feel the same. After all, I am kind of a jerk to you most of the time. I just wanted you to know. Roman finished and went silent, looking down and awaiting the inevitable rejection. Virgil, on the other hand, stood in shock. He definitely wasn't expecting that. He struggled to find his tongue, to say something, to say anything to get out of this rigid and suffocating silence. Seeing Roman like this broke his heart, and he wanted to say anything to replace it with that frustrating, crooked smile. Still not being able to speak, he just put his other hand to the side of Roman's face, lifting it so they could look into each other's eyes. The younger offered a small smile, but the taller didn't seem all that hopeful. Virgil still tried to grasp the right words to say. Roman continued to stare into Virgil's eyes. His spirit seemed to be breaking with each passing second. Virgil wanted to speak, to tell him that it was all right, but he couldn't. It was starting to become a bit annoying. He opened his mouth to try and encourage words to come out, and thankfully, it worked. Bro, that makes me really happy. The change in Roman's face was enough to make anyone beam. His smile was practically ear to ear. Really? He asked, hugging the anxious side. It really seemed too good to be true. He placed a hand over Virgil's on his face. The other could only nod and shyly smile. Though this was a nice moment, Virgil couldn't help but stop to think about what it would mean for them now. Would it be awkward between them now? Would anything be expected of him? Was this enough? But what if... His thoughts fluttered away as he once again caught sight of Roman's eyes, his beautiful green eyes. His eyes that were flooded with happiness, such contagious happiness. He could just enjoy this moment, at least for a little while.